Well, hello everybody. This is Daniel with Daniel's Bullion Coins. Have my sweet wife Ingrid here.
Good morning.
And we're going to take some questions and conversation on the week.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about. What did you see this week? I wasn't here at all. It was too hot.
Too hot.
You said you couldn't work outside, so I stayed home.
Yes, too hot this week in Northern Virginia to be working outside on the farm. We have a hobby farm.
It was a
survival
heat
farm.
wave. Yeah.
And too hot to work out there this week. So we would do a little bit in the morning.
Yeah.
Do the necessities, feed everybody, make sure they had water. And then I covered the shop this week.
Yeah.
So a lot of what's going on, I've noticed comments are, I'm downsizing.
Yeah.
We get that a lot here at the antiques business,
anyway.
But this week it's been a lot more than usual.
Yeah.
People talking about downsizing, liquidating,
Yeah.
getting rid of things.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of economic tightening.
Yeah, I think so.
We
too.
have seen some people taking advantage of what is clearly a buyer's market right now.
Mm-hmm.
We even have other coin dealers right here on the street. I keep in touch with them. I stay friendly with everybody. I try to help everybody in the business up and down the street. And they're all saying the same thing. It's definitely a buyer's market.
Yeah.
You can even go to your wholesaler and get inventory right now at a reduced rate. The premiums are down. When I was at the wholesaler last week, he was telling me about the 1980s. He's in his 70s, so he remembers the 80s very well. And he was telling me about the lines that went out the door of people liquidating, cashing in during the inflation of the late 70s and the price of silver going extremely high.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen again. We're going to have people, the Americans are going to liquidate. They're not going to be the ones that really drive the price of gold and silver. It's going to be the banks. And the banks have been adding massively to their reserves right now. And we had an interesting, I don't want to get ahead of us. We'll do any other thing that we want to talk about this week?
You said that during this week too, we talked about how they were going to hammer the price of the
banksters. So coming up, we have the 4th of July coming up, and we've already started to see the hammering of gold and silver.
They have.
They've already started hammering it. And I think a lot of people will put stops in like on Friday. And they're leaving for a week or two, and they'll say, hey, I want to sell if it gets to this level, if it drops to this level, put me in a sell order. And they can pre-program that. And I think a lot of people put in that program, and the manipulators, and we'll just call them the government, the JP Morgans of the world, they can see and look into the computer and see those stops. So they take advantage of those stops.
So not fair.
They say, hey, look, there's billions of ounces at 33.50 or whatever. So they'll hammer it down, and that'll kick in more sell orders, which causes the price to go lower and lower. So people haven't even gotten their luggage packed to get to the beach on Friday, and JP Morgan was taking advantage of the sell orders that were placed, stop orders, and was able to drive the price way down. And I think that's going to happen a lot over the next week or so, all the way through the holidays here in the United States.
People will take off this past weekend all the way through next weekend, which is July 4th. So let's go ahead, and even maybe the next week. We can see some.
We may see some, especially early the next week, the Monday, the Tuesday, right after the holidays, Sunday night. They'll take advantage of that low volume. And people also park their money there. So when they're coming back to work on Monday, a week from now, after the holidays, they'll be pulling their money out and wanting to reinvest and play the market. You have day traders that park in gold and silver, and they'll come out and want to day trade. So you'll see pressure all the way through, even Monday and Tuesday after the holidays.
Oh my goodness.
So expect some volatility, expect some downturn, and it's a real buyer's opportunity.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
We're excited for the people that friends of ours and customers here that are taking advantage of the buyer's opportunity right now.
I think so. Yeah, we know people doing that. Okay, let's talk about what was in the news this week.
Wow, we had a lot of big news this week. I think the biggest thing was that Trump had the Supreme Court ruling that went in his favor. That was so huge.
It's huge.
You know, they were suppressing Trump with the injunctions, which were
Yes.
totally outside the Constitution. It's
Yeah.
something that was invented just 10 or 20, maybe 30 years ago. It really came into accelerated 20 or 30 years ago. But in the Trump administration, these injunctions were on everything.
So,
They were completely blocking the
Right.
executive order, the executive branch.
Right.
And what concerns me is, what is the deep state going to do next? Okay, they've lost this injunction capability, and I think that what they try next is going to be very interesting to see. They're going to pull out all the stops as far as trying to slow walk the
Right.
administration. The fourth branch of government will start to kick in.
Yeah.
And I think that will expose a lot of them. Maybe that we'll be able to catch them, in their
Right.
deep state activities.
Well, it becomes so obvious.
Yes.
I mean, if nothing else, if you ever had any doubt, you have
Right.
no doubt anymore who's
Right.
who.
Yeah,
and
it reminds
their
me
agenda.
of in the Bible where it says, "Choose ye this day,"
Yeah.
because it's dividing.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
clear, who's with the
Right.
Trump administration, who wants to see this nation succeed, and who wants to see it fail.
Right.
Whether you look at how peacefully we brought an end to the nuclear risk in Iran with no loss of life, no consequences, smooth operation. You look
Right.
at the injunction, the win-win-win situations that the Trump administration is
Yeah, we're
experiencing.
thankful.
He's
Answer to
bringing in
prayer,
China,
yes.
has signed a deal. There's a lot of these deals working out. There's some that aren't, a couple of people, but that's okay, because when we reach the deadline, we'll have over 150 countries that we can buy inventory from.
Right.
So if there's 2 or 3 countries that are giving us a hard time, they'll just be out of the American market.
Yes.
And now that tariffs, okay, so we had tariffs way up here in
Yes.
overseas. There were tariffs. That
Yeah.
meant the price of things were up here. Trump came in and put threatening tariffs,
Yeah,
which
and
was called
Reciprocal.
reciprocal
Yeah.
tariffs, forcing their tariffs down,
Yeah.
which forces the price of things down.
Yeah.
People were just looking at the U.S. coming in with tariffs and saying, oh, the price of everything's going to
my
go up.
goodness.
No, it drove the prices down
Well,
because it caused them to lower their tariffs.
I even saw late last night, or maybe it was early this morning. I've been up so long. Powell has even said he might now lower rates
Yes.
by 50 points.
That was the other thing that
That's
helped to
huge.
really, he's jawboning, he really got caught. If you want to go
Yeah, he
back and
did.
watch a very interesting interaction, it was Kennedy and Jerome
Yes,
Powell. It's only a
love him.
5-minute video.
Yeah.
And Jerome Powell got caught
Yeah.
because Kennedy brought to light the fact that Jerome Powell is politically driving
Yes.
his decisions.
He's kind of tried to laugh it off, but everyone saw it.
Yes,
I mean,
he got made a fool.
Yeah.
He got made a fool, and he got caught and got exposed
Yeah.
for being a political operative working against the Trump administration. So he had to kind of come out and say, okay, and say, look, he started the jawboning procedure
Yeah.
for lowering interest rates.
Yeah.
Now, probably not the next Fed meeting, which is in like 30 days, but it's probably October, September. We'll see our first 50 basis point drop,
Wow.
which that was another thing that gave the bankers the accelerator pedal to lower the gold and silver this week. It's retail sellers selling to get out. It's the buying opportunity. It's J.P. Morgan. It's Jerome Powell. He had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So watch him this week. Actually, in the next month or so, he's going to start jawboning, talking about lowering interest rates.
Yes. So what else? We saw the home sales drop.
Yes, so the reports on
Yeah.
home sales are starting to come
Prices
out.
drop.
New home sales are dropping. The prices of homes are starting to drop a little bit. And that goes hand in hand with the cost are rising.
Yeah.
And the main thing, you talk, Redfin, some of these other places that track
Right.
it. And what they're finding is that people's taxes are going up. When they signed up for this
Oh, my
mortgage, they
goodness.
didn't figure on the taxes being that high.
Right.
If you want to hit the pause.
Okay.
That's okay. It's
sorry.
going by.
It's
That's
going
all right.
by
It's going
now.
by. I know.
Add a little excitement in it.
Right. It's live.
Yeah, we
and we
are.
do this all in one shot.
Yeah, we do.
So you get what you get here. We're right on the corner.
Yeah.
So home sales, They track everything, people's opinions.
Yeah.
It's amazing how all the different parameters that they track. And it's actually looking like '08 and '09 again, these parameters, the price and all of these different things that they track. The insurance, the taxes, the maintenance on your home. You know, if the hot water heater breaks or this happens or that happens and you have to call somebody, people are finding out that it's very expensive to own a home. It's not just the mortgage.
No.
All of a sudden it's the taxes. And you go back to the Great Depression and you read some of the stories. These 100-acre farms were lost, 1,000-acre farms were lost because they owed $100 in taxes.
It's just terrible.
You know, and they couldn't beg, borrow, or steal $100 to keep the family farm. And that's what people don't do the math when they go buy a new home. They don't realize that the taxes are going to go up, the maintenance costs are going to go up, everything's going to go up. And it may go up faster than the value. You know, you're looking at the value. Oh, the value has gone up this much in the past 10 years. It should go up again. Well, the value may actually go down. You're taking a risk that the value goes down.
That's true. But we got to live somewhere, so we
Yes. And the key is to do the math.
And the rent's going up, too.
To look at everything. Take everything into consideration. You know, stability of your job, the fact that the taxes may go up. Don't buy something that maxes out at your income.
Oh, I know.
Buy something that gives you room to account for future taxes going up, for insurance going up, and start figuring on you need to be able to do the maintenance yourself, as much of that maintenance as you can yourself to cut the cost. We haven't had mechanical work done on our vehicles in years and years and years. I've done it all.
Right, you have.
Well, we dropped off my truck to have some work, the farm truck.
Yeah, the big dump truck.
Because it's been sitting in the yard for 4 or 5 years, and it's just never going to get done unless
we need it.
We need it.
We need it.
Pay someone to get it to. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're $150, $175 an hour, and the workmanship not so good. You know, it would have been better quality. I'll probably go back and tweak it a little bit, tighten it up, but it's very expensive to get something worked on. Trades are very expensive now. Nobody wants to work.
People need to go to trade schools, young ones coming up.
Well, I think that's one way. I really like the idea of being an apprentice. Go on to a construction site and be an electrician for a little while.
My goodness,
be a plumber for a little while.
What about
be a carpenter.
HVAC? This last week they probably learned such demand.
Just learn the basics on air conditioning. If you're a young person, go out.
Oh my goodness.
Or if you've got kids, encourage them to get a job at electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry.
Avoid those student loans.
Maybe go be a mechanic. You're going to, in the long run, financially be better off with a trade. But it's just hard to get people to want to work nowadays.
It's so true, darling. Oh, we saw something about China opens up their Yuan, gold exchange.
Yes, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which was in China, which is the only place that you can trade paper currency for gold. So you can actually take the dollar and change it into yuan, and in the Shanghai Gold Exchange go into gold. So basically the yuan is backed by gold in China. So they're trying to expand their umbrella of exchanging their currency for gold. And this week they opened a facility in Hong Kong. This is huge news.
This is.
Opened a facility in Hong Kong where you can exchange the yuan for gold. So you're starting to slowly and more see the yuan expanding as a gold-backed currency.
Oh my goodness.
Here we are, people are constantly, the amount of US dollars that are in reserves is shrinking and shrinking. We're almost at the low where the dollar's being not used as much. In fact, I think we went from first place to 14th place.
Really?
Or 7th place, I can't remember. We're falling in favoritism. And other currencies like the Shanghai Exchange yuan is being used, and gold is being used. It's becoming it used to be a third tier asset. Now it's a number 1 tier asset with the bank. The banks are holding gold instead of holding dollars. That's why the price of gold is going up, because the banks are holding it as a currency now rather than the dollar.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. That's why it won't be the retail person. In other words, the person that comes in and out of the U.S. citizen who's holding a little bit of gold under their mattress or whatever. That's not going to be what controls the price of gold and silver.
No.
It's going to be that the government is printing money and putting more into the system, and that the banks are calling it a tier 1 asset, and that China is starting to back their currency with gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. It really is. Then we also saw something in the Supreme Court about Doge.
Right. Yeah, Supreme Court this week with the injunction lifting, with this new freedom that Trump has gotten from the Supreme Court. They had completely stopped the Doge cuts that he had found, the fraud and the waste and over. So now he can actually sign that executive order, and we can actually start cutting that fraud. We were stopped from cutting the fraud, the waste. And you all have heard about how millions and millions of dollars sent over to study a turtle's life or whatever, or condoms for Arabs or Muslims and things like that.
Unreal.
So all these crazy spending programs and the money that was being funneled through NGOs, from the USA through NGOs back to the politicians' wives and kids and things, rather than really and truly going out to the children. You hear an awful lot about the children in the Democrat Party right now, but they were actually use that as a cover to funnel money back to their Democratic programs.
Wow.
Hence why the Democrat Party is now going bankrupt. The DNC is filing bankruptcy.
It's not going out very far. They're going to get probably
we always
throttled.
lose subscribers and we get the comments, and that's fine. We're going to be...
That's okay.
We're going to be real, and we would much rather have you be man enough to put a comment than taking off your subscription. If you don't agree,
that's okay.
Make a
it's
comment.
All right. They don't. I don't like controversy.
Well, we're not going to argue,
no,
but
I'm not going to.
We would love to hear people's opinion and
there you go.
Educated.
That's right.
Let's talk.
Not being ugly.
Not being ugly.
Right. Anyway. Oh, I had a thought with that, but I can't remember. Oh, I knew what I was going to say, is that I pray that not just executive order, that it would move to law against these things. But you were saying at home, we were talking about, you said that'll probably, with the Congress that we have in now, that probably will never happen.
The Supreme Court is going to rule like in October and finalize the decision.
Okay.
And what they're doing is the dissenting opinion was, let's give everybody else a chance to come in and argue. They're looking for everybody to come in and invest money, spend money, let the attorneys make a bunch of money between now and October, and present an argument to keep the injunction rule in place. But it looks really strong that because it's a temporary stay. They just stopped everything, and everybody get your thoughts together and come back in October, and we'll sit and hear both sides. But we're on our way for this to be a Supreme Court ruling, which is then going to be judicial precedent. The Supreme Court is going to rule and finalize it, and it'll be a done deal.
Yes. Okay. We were talking about at home again, about how you say you want to kind of give a quick synopsis again. Why gold and silver? Just to sum all of this up.
So, try to give a quick summary.
Just a quick.
To finalize. We get some friends of ours, new people, and they come in and they say, and they know we're in gold and silver. Okay, I've got some money. I want to know why gold and silver. And I tell them, I say, look, we were on the gold standard up until 1933, and we were on the silver standard as far as blue-collar people are concerned up until 1971. We went on the oil standard, and then we went on the quantitative easing standard.
We went to TARP, didn't we, with Bush?
Like a TARP. TARP was the first time with Bush, right as Obama was coming in. And what we did is we started basically adding a zero into the computer.
Quantitative easing.
Just adding a zero into the computer to give us extra money to then go out and pay for these things. And it all sounded well and good and fine. We had Katrina and we had 9/11, and we paid for those things. We paid for wars and things by printing money, creating money out of thin air. And that's and the New Deal with Roosevelt, we had to come off the gold standard in order to be able to build the Hoover Dam and to be able to start those social programs. So now the social programs will bookend it on the other side and say, look at it now. The social programs and the free money have gotten completely out of hand.
And then people, like you're saying earlier, fraud. People would step in.
And the fraud, right, because money's flowing.
It's just,
and it's just, and now nobody wants to work.
Right.
So they're living off of free money, and you've got this situation, you know, where eventually it's going to end, because it's been tried thousands and thousands of times throughout history, and it never works, because now you've got a society that doesn't want to produce and doesn't want to work.
Right.
And so Trump is trying to bring it back, but it's going to take people willing to go back to work. So I see some disruption coming. It's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be easy to get people to go back to work. They're not physically not able, mentally not able. They're under pharmaceuticals. They're mentally not able, physically not able, and we've got to try to get this nation up and working again.
That's true. Did we go back and did we finish what you're saying about gold and silver? Why gold and silver?
Yes, just did a short little run on that this week and wrap it up. Yeah, the gold. You know, it's interesting. Talking about Weimar, heard something interesting this week about Weimar Republic. I always use as an example, and how they printed so much money, and they would weigh it, and they were 1 gram a piece for each note. Then they would tape them up, and they'd make these bricks, you know, and then you would purchase something with, you know, a pound's worth of paper. Well, it's interesting. I'm starting to weigh money. It comes in, you know, a bunch of 20s or whatever.
It's easier sometimes.
You can just sometimes faster just to weigh it. And next thing I know, I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like Weimar Republic because I'm weighing these 20s, you know, and bundling them up, and it's just, you know, a lot, 50 20s rubber band together, and so there's your 1,000. You're starting to do things in thousands. Well, in Germany, they actually took each note and they just stamped a 0 on it. They put a stamp on it and added zeros onto it. So can you imagine if you were a little boy and you went out and you're earning this money and you're shoveling driveways and delivering papers, and they give you $10 and you could go buy a bicycle with that, but you hold on and you save the money. The next day they add a 0 to everybody else's money but yours. And you've got your $10. Now you can't even buy a tire tube for the bicycle because everybody else has got, you know, $100.
Oh, my goodness.
So you can see how quickly the working person who saves loses because they're saving their money, and everybody else is getting a new $100 bill. And of course, the new $100 bills go to the elite first, the ones that are connected. They pass those out to their friends and their buddies. Hey, get a running head start.
Right.
And what happens, speaking about getting a running head start, is it's the movie theater smoke example. The United States is probably going to realize last that they need to get out of their dollars. Other countries understand it, and they're probably going to get into gold much quicker than we are, because people here in the U.S. just don't comprehend how important it is.
We'll mention it to especially older people, even older than us.
Yes, there's still some out there.
They will say, "Oh, the dollar will never go away. It's been the reserve
forever."
I mean, we because of our military. That's what we hear typically all the time, and we're like, okay.
Well, in these other countries, it happens overnight. People go to sleep and they have no idea, and they wake up the next morning and there's a bank holiday or there's some sort of problem, and their currency's worthless. You know, it's cut in half. Like the little fellow that worked all week delivering newspapers, his money is 1/10 of its value because they added a 0.
So we're not saying totally get rid of your dollars. We're saying put some away.
Yes, it's
we
insurance.
Would advise.
We're not giving financial advice. We're just having fun out here, giving our opinion, promoting our little coin business. Come see us. But it's about insurance. It's about having insurance. The dollar is collapsing. The last 20 years, the dollar's been in half at 2% inflation. Now we've had 4%, and it looks like we could continue 4% for the next 10 years. So instead of 20 years it going in half, it's going to be 10 years your dollars are going to be cut in half because the inflation is running at 4% now.
Right. Wow. So we're not saying you have to come to us, but you need to go somewhere.
Yeah, send us your questions.
Yeah, send us your questions, and then wherever you need to go to get your gold and silver.
And do your math.
Yeah.
Do your math and understand on your own what you're doing, what you can
Pray
afford.
About it. The Lord will show you what to do.
Yeah, He will.
He will.
Thank you, everybody.
Blessings.
Bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.